So the page number, no, that's not the same thing. That's a very different, yeah. So you have to go to the surah number 18, Surat AlKahf, and then look for ayah number 71. We're going to start with 71, inshallah. All right. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. We've recited the first 70 ayah of Surat AlKahf. We're now in the middle of the third story of the surah. We're coming closer to the end of the surah. It's only 3 pages and a bit. It'll be done. We've done most of the surah, so hopefully I'm thinking maybe in 6 more sessions and then it'll be over. However, we are in the middle of the most interesting surah by far in this surah. Like by far, this is the most interesting story. I don't think there's a more interesting story in the whole Quran. The way that it's what it's talking about, the actual events of the story, who's in the story, and the outcome of it is just very, very unique. I can't think of any other story that is close to it or talks about a similar topic. I think there's a hikmah in that. There's some wisdom that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, something very, very, very difficult to talk about, a very, very delicate a topic or an issue that is very, I guess, dangerous if people misunderstand or misinterpret, that comes in the form of only one story, so it's understood once and the norm is being put. Maybe too many narrations or too many stories could cause some confusion or would allow for more misinterpretation if people want to do it. But where we are in the story, or what the story is talking about, this is the third story of Surat AlKahf. Surat AlKahf that talks about the 4 tools that are used for the building of societies and communities, and at the same time the 4 tools that could be the source of fitan, if you want to look at it from that angle. And the first 2 topics, first 2 stories are the theology or the ideology, the idea, and that is represented by the story of Ahl al-Kahf, the people of the cave, the individuals who made the difference, made the change in their society based on the idea that they had. They came up with a set of values, with a list of fundamental principles that they adhered to, and they taught and they worked with, and people accepted and later on took on, and they were able to change their community almost completely. The second story was about wealth, and it talked about the 2 men and the 2 orchards, and this went into a lot of depth, talking about the concept, the perception of materialism and possessions, and talked about wealth. And I found that we talked about that in a lot of detail, and we took a lot of time, to be honest. We spent a lot of time talking about that story because of its importance and the relevance of the topic itself, which is wealth and materialistic possessions. The third story talks about knowledge, the third tool. And knowledge is, today is something, or science, if you want to call it science. Today, in the society that we live in the time that we live in, the place that we live in, we're very, I guess, lucky or fortunate to be where we are at the time that we are. We are seeing things that people, our grandfathers and grandmothers would find to be completely impossible. They wouldn't believe you if you told them that you have what you have or you're seeing. They wouldn't believe you if you just explained to them your day-to-day routine, meaning what is it that you did and where you go and how you do what you do and how you communicate. Because now we're seeing the miracle of critical thinking and scientific research. However, knowledge is a double-edged sword. If it's not combined with the concept of rahmah, of mercy, as the servant in this story depicts and explains, it can become very, very dangerous. Musa alayhi salam thought he was the most knowledgeable person in the world at the time because he was the highest-ranking prophet alive at the time, and it only made sense to him, since he spoke to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala personally, no one else did, that he would be the most knowledgeable. He didn't think he was being arrogant. He was not trying to be arrogant. He just thought and said what what made sense to him. However, Musa alayhi salam had spent the majority of his life preaching the faith that he knew, meaning he was talking in the theory. He was teaching the theory. He had yet to see the practical implementation of the theory that he had. Musa alayhi salam had not moved the ideas that he had from the realm of being theories and theatrical or to actual practice on ground. Musa alayhi salam had not done that yet. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala heard Musa alayhi salam say that, he sent Jibreel saying, no, you're not the most knowledgeable person on the world. The most knowledgeable person in the world is a man who lives in a certain place, and he gave him Majma' al-Bahrain, the place where the 2 oceans come together. the junction between two oceans. And Musa alayhi salam, when he was told that there's someone more knowledgeable than he was, he decided to embark on a journey to go and find that person and learn from him, because this is the adab of every person in the world, every high-ranking person, every person who actually understands the value of knowledge and the value of information will go and do that. And Musa alayhi salam went and he took Yusha with him, and they went looking for this person to be educated and to learn from him. Now, what is it that this person has that Musa alayhi salam does not have? Does he have more theory than Musa? No, no one had more theory than Musa alayhi salam. However, he had the practical knowledge. This person understood the implementation. He had a much more holistic comprehension of the faith and the religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He understood the world in a more holistic manner. Why? Because it wasn't just theory, it was also practice. Musa alayhi salam had not seen the practice yet. He needed this story alayhi salam before he started his journey with Bani Israel. This basically happened just after they crossed the Red Sea, and before he started organizing his people. Alayhi salam had never actually done anything practical with his people. It was all just be patient, be perseverant, here's the rulings, but he wasn't actually running a society yet. So he got this opportunity to go and learn from Al-Khadr, or from this abd min ibadillah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whom Allah gave rahmah and ilm, ataynahu rahmatan min indina wa 'allamnahu min ladunna ilma. He got this opportunity to go and learn. And he did, he went and learned. And we found this person to be extremely knowledgeable. The moment Musa alayhi salam spoke to him and told him, and of course we talked about the symbolism and the junction between two oceans, right? Theory and practice, when they come together, what happens? Something dead becomes alive. It grants life, and that is the truth about the faith that you carry. You're a Muslim. If the theory that if you understand Islam properly theoretically, and then you have the ability to practice and implement it properly, then all that is dead within you will come to life. And societies that seem to have no hope, there's no hope for them, will suddenly be granted life again, and it will be prosperous, and they will thrive. The reason is because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us principles, gives us concepts to think about, ideas to understand, and then when you practice them, the practice takes a bit more. You have to be a bit ready for that. It's not going to always be exactly the way you thought it was going to be. It's not always going to be as easy and as clear cut as you assumed it was going to be. And it's easy to memorize the formula, however, implement it in the equation, or actually be able to use it in a day-to-day routine, or actually take the formula that you understood, and when you're given a problem, solve the problem using the formula. It's a whole different ball game. It's very different. You can study all the pieces of the car, but then actually putting it together and taking it is a whole different thing. You can study medicine, understand all the diseases, and then actually finding, diagnosing, and then treating is a different thing. Always a difference between theory and practice. And we have the same problem as every other part of life as Muslims. Musa alayhi salam had that issue. He thought he was the most knowledgeable because he had the theory, but he did not have the practice. He wasn't on the ground. Do we have that problem today as Muslims? Do we have a lot of talk and not much action? Do we have a countless number of durus and halaqat, but a very, very small number of people who are actually on the ground doing the work, dealing with the youth and dealing with people and trying to solve problems and fix it and come up with solutions and seeing the actual issues that people are going through? Yes, we have the same problem. Actually, it's growing. Meaning we're more and more disconnected every day because of the fact that we're not actually on the ground, because it's messy on the ground, because it's not pure. This is pure. This is beautiful. I can explain these ayahs to you. You'll love them. You'll fall in love with these ayahs. You'll find them so beautiful and so clear. But then go show me how you're going to practice this stuff. The practice is messy because people have different ways of understanding it, and people deal with it differently. They have different type of problems. The variables are unlimited when you're dealing with human beings. So it's not as clear. It's not as smooth, right? And we don't like it not to be smooth. We want everyone to be perfect. We want all our kids to be great, huffaz, and all of them come in the masjid quietly with their taqiyya on their heads and sit down and make dua quietly and then stand and pray. That's what you want. And we don't see that, we get annoyed. If your son is not a good Muslim right on his own, by himself, doing everything the way you want to do, you get why? What are you doing? Why? Because the theory? Because that's what you read? Because you read that Salim Mawla Abi Hudayfa did that, and Zayd ibn Thabit was like that? You think that everyone's going to be like that? Because Usama ibn Zayd was the commander of an army at 17, you think your son is going to be the same thing? No, that's theory. Learning the theory is beautiful and it's helpful and allows you it gives you the wide spectrum of information. But then the practice is different. The variables are many, and you have to understand that the outcome is always going to be different, and you have to be ready for that, and you have to be able to understand the spirit of the knowledge, so you can bend and be flexible, so things actually, so the outcome is actually acceptable at the end. And that is where we unfortunately, as Muslims, we seem to fail. We still don't know how to do that properly. Inshallah, yani maybe the next generation will learn from the story of Musa alayhi salam, al-Khidr, Musa and the Abd al-Salih, and they'll benefit from it. So where we are in the story, Musa, after he told him, I want to follow you, على أن تعلمني مما علمت رشدا, I will follow you and you will teach me, inshallah, from what you know, to allow me to achieve rushda. Rushda, as I told you, is basically taking knowledge or taking a situation and then making the best of it. Making sure that you're doing the best you can in terms of being successful in this world and being successful in the hereafter. That's what the rushda means. That's why when you go back, you rewind the surah to the story of AlKahf, you will find that they said the same thing. وَهَيِّئْ لَنَا مِنْ أَمْرِنَا رَشَدًا. When they retreated to the cave, that's what they said. They say, Ya Rabb, this is our plan, and Ya Rabb, please allow us from our matter, give us something that is rashada, that will allow us something better than our own plan. We have a plan, this is a plan, this seems to be the best plan we have. But Ya Rab, you have a better plan, where the outcome will be better. Ya Rab, grant us the better outcome. Or Ya Rab, grant us the better plan, or give us the guidance so we can find it. But this is the best we can do. And Musa alayhi salam had the information, he needed the rushda. He needs how I'm going to use this information to actually help people, to actually make a difference in people's lives and allow them to live happier and live better and be more productive and then reach the ultimate goal of going to Jannah. How do I do that? So he told him right off the bat, إِنَّكَ لَن تَسْتَطِيعَ مَعِيَ صَبْرًا. Okay, you can come with me, however, you will not be able to be patient with me. You're not going to be able to, to stay for long. You're going to find this to be too difficult for you. This is a man who's very knowledgeable. Being knowledgeable means not only do you understand the information, you know how people are going to react to it, and you understand that reaction. Meaning you're not getting frustrated by the way people are reacting to certain things. You know that's how they're going. That is normal. This is how the reaction is going to be, and you have that open-mindedness that allows you to even accept the fact that people react to what you have to say differently. If you only take that from this surah, then you've taken a whole lot. If this is the only thing you end up walking away from this surah with, then you've taken with you something good. When you go home and you get frustrated with your kid or your wife on something they did, if you were truly a person of knowledge, if you truly, because that's what you claim to be when you're talking to your children or talking to your spouse or talking to people around you, you're trying to explain to them how you know what you're talking about, this is important. If you're truly a person of knowledge, you would also know why is it that they don't seem to accept what you're saying. Because when you know why they're not accepting, then you're less likely to be frustrated, and you're not in awe of it. You understand? Yeah. It's normal for you to say stuff like this and people not to accept it immediately because they have problems back home, or they have environmental problems, or they have issues of judgment or insight, or there's different things that cause these issues. And Musa and Khidr told him, you can come, however, you will not be able to be patient with what I have to say. And then he tells him why, so that Musa doesn't feel bad about himself. So it's not like it's not like you're too stupid to learn this, or you don't know what you're talking about, or you're just not committed enough. No, you won't be able to stick with me for long. وَكَيْفَ تَصْبِرُ عَلَى مَا لَمْ تُحِطْ بِهِ خُبْرًا. And how could you be patient with me if you don't encompass the whole knowledge of everything we're going to do? Meaning you only have a part of the picture. Because you don't have the full picture, you won't be able to stick with me for long, but that's okay. You can come with me anyway. You'll learn something, inshallah, from this. We go back, you'll look into it, and then you'll benefit from it. But I know you won't be able to be patient. So he's already telling him what's going to happen, and he's giving him the excuse, so that the person doesn't have to feel bad about himself when he makes the mistakes, because Musa is going to make 3 mistakes in a row. And had this very knowledgeable person had with rahmah not told him about it, he would have maybe felt very bad about himself, or felt that he's not worthy. He told him, you're not going to be able to do it. I know. Why? Because you haven't encompassed the whole knowledge. And I think that, and I know I've talked about that a lot last time, but I really think it's worthy of your time. That is one of the, to me, ayah 68 in Surat AlKahf, one of the most beautiful and important and deep ayat that exists in the Quran. Yes, how is it that you're going to be patient towards something that you don't understand fully? Can you be patient? Can you stick to something? Can you commit to something? Be patient. Tasbir also means commitment. Perseverance is commitment in its essence. So can you commit to something that you don't understand fully? مَا لَمْ تُحِطْ بِهِ خُبْرًا. You don't have the full picture? No, you cannot. And you're not asked to. You're not asked to, and you shouldn't be asking others to either. If your kids don't understand Islam fully, if they don't have the full picture, then they cannot commit to it, and you shouldn't be asking them to. And if you're like, oh, I don't know the full picture, then go learn it, so you can teach it, or take them to someone who can. You cannot expect yourself or anyone else to commit to something they don't understand. If they don't understand it, then normally they won't commit. If they commit to something they don't understand, there must be something wrong with them. I'm sorry, there must be something wrong with their comprehension if they're going to commit to something they don't understand. As a Muslim, you were never asked to commit to something you don't understand. You were asked to turn your brain on and think and process and slowly rationally, logically, go through everything that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying and see if it makes sense. And if you make sense of all of it, and you're capable of understanding it, then you can commit to it fully. Yes, tafadhal.
Is there a connection in that verse? Is that what you're saying, that there's a connection between not getting frustrated and mercy, being merciful and not
yes,
being frustrated?
Exactly. So that's the whole point. That he doesn't even want Musa alayhi salam to feel frustrated at the end. Like, he doesn't want him to feel that he's not worthy of following him. So he told him what's going to happen. He told him why. So Musa would feel okay about the fact that he's going to react like this. It's like, you're going to react like this. It's impossible that you won't. But it's okay because this is the reason. So Musa, when he reacts like that, he doesn't feel like he was, he did something wrong. It was explained to him that this is the reason, and Musa alayhi salam was okay with it. That's out of mercy. When a teacher, when your teacher tells you it's okay, you don't understand this, that's okay. It's fine. It's normal for you not to understand it this way. Isn't that? That's the type of teacher that you stick to. He's not making me feel bad about myself. I'm not feeling like I'm dumb because I didn't understand this from the first time. And he gives you time again and time, and he understands why is it that you're not making sense of it after the first and second or third time. And he's able to help you with that. Those are educators that have rahmah, because it's very easy to teach differently. And it's very easy to teach in a different way. Yeah, I don't want to sound mean by saying this. My father taught me math when I was a kid. Jazakallah khair, he taught me a lot of things when it came to academics. He was very, made sure I learned a lot. I was grade 3, I was doing, mathematical equations of 2 with 2 variables, x and y. I was still grade 3 and 4, I was doing really, but my dad he taught, but he didn't know how to teach. He didn't have the method. So the best thing he could say when he taught me is he would write it down and he would say, understand it. And that's understand it. And if I didn't understand it, that's all he had. Understand it again. And I felt, sometimes I would feel very negative because I'm like, and he would tell me, turn your brain on. And I was always thinking, why is there like a button that I didn't find yet that I should be pressing to turn my brain on? And then he noticed that and he kind of changed. When the teacher doesn't show mercy, then it can bring down the spirit. So, and that's why this man, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala called him a person of mercy and knowledge, you saw immediately the effect or the impact of that mercy. Without Musa asking for anything, he told him, okay, you can come, you won't be able to put up with it, and this is why. And he gave him, and Musa alayhi salam will walk away with information about himself. Now Musa understands himself more. He understands why is it that he couldn't deal with something, which is true educating and true helping. And he told him, فَإِنِ اتَّبَعْتَنِي, and if you're going to come with all that in mind, فَلَا تَسْأَلْنِي عَنْ شَيْءٍ, I'm going to need to ask you of one condition.
So where's the knowledge of this? Where's the knowledge? The
knowledge is to come. We didn't start with the knowledge part yet.
That's introduction.
yeah, we haven't. Yes.
Allah just ordered him, to kill the boy and to ruin the ship.
Be very patient. We'll come to them. We're going to start with these things today, inshallah. And you can see it's a very interesting issue because he will explain to them at the end. Al-Abd al-Salih, at the end of his encounter with Musa alayhi salam, when they're done, he'll say, okay, we're done, you can't stay with me anymore because you broke the condition. I told you the condition is don't ask me about anything until I remind you of it later. I'll remind you of it later, but just don't ask me during the time that it's happening, you'll ruin it. You'll cause a problem. So just be quiet until we're done, and then I'll explain everything for you. Musa alayhi salam, but he told him you're not going to be able to do it. Like he already told you you're not going to be able, but he still has to give Musa alayhi salam the conditions. When he finally breaks the last condition, he will explain to him everything. And the knowledge of his explanation is what we're going to learn from. And it's going to give us a bigger picture that inshallah I'll share with you at the end that'll bidnillah ta'ala make sense when we're done with this. So he told him, don't ask until I remind you of it. And that's where we stopped last time at ayah number 70. We will continue from ayah number 71. Again, this is a very, very symbolic and very deep story. There's a lot of things we have to talk about here in order for this story to make full sense. But when it does, when we talk about them, inshallah, it will make complete sense to you. And you will find that this story is a very, very important story. It's a very unique one, and it offers offers us a lot to think about and a lot to benefit from, inshallah. So we start from ayah number 71, inshallah, Surat AlKahf. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
فانطلقا حتى إذا ركبا في السفينة خرقها.
فانطلقا حتى إذا ركبا في السفينة خرقها.
قال أخرقتها لتغرق أهلها.
قال أخرقتها لتغرق أهلها
لقد جئت شيئا إمرا
قد جئت شيئا إمرا
قال ألم أقل إنك لن تستطيع معي صبرا
قال ألم أقل إنك لن تستطيع معي صبرا
قال لا تؤاخذني بما نسيت
قال لا تؤاخذني بما نسيت
ولا ترهقني من أمري عسرا.
ولا ترهقني من أمري عسرا.
All right, so this is the first encounter. فانطلقا, and we have to stop there because 3 times in this surah we're going to hear this beginning of ayah, and I think it's very symbolic and it's very important. فانطلقا, and then they embarked on a journey, or then they went forward. And this is the difference between theory and practice. الانطلاق, where you take what you've learned and you embark and you move forward with it. تنطلق, and you go to the reality of the world and you take the values that you've learned, and you take the information that you have, and you take the principles and the concepts that you've obtained and acquired by learning Islam, and then you تنطلق, and then you go. انطلاق is a word that they use for planes when they lift off. So they use the word انطلاق. So the word انطلاق means when you go for something, but you go for it full throttle, and you're leaving your comfort zone to go into something that is maybe a bit unknown to you, right? But you're going with strength, you're going with enthusiasm, you're going with energy. That's the word فانطلق, meaning let's go. And then you enter a realm that you may not be totally familiar with. Maybe you're not totally comfortable with. Maybe you don't understand exactly what's waiting for you. But you're doing it with enthusiasm, with energy anyway, because you have confidence. Why do you have confidence? From the theory that you learned, from the information that you have. And then you go and you're going to hit all the realities that are waiting for you. But if you understood things properly, not only are you going to obtain more knowledge, and you're going to find out exactly how it's going to be practiced. It's one thing for us to talk about, and this is exactly what's happening. We can sit down and draw this perfect picture of what an Islamic community needs to look like. And we can sit here and agree almost unanimously on this picture. And then, okay, let's actually practice it. How is the practice going to happen? Ya Latif. Even trying to start the practice is a nightmare. It's always very difficult to achieve, and you don't even know where to start. And when we start, we find so many different challenges and obstacles in our way and difficulties. Yet we agree fully. We agree fully on the theory. Yes, a community that is supportive of one another, a community that has innovation and creativity, and it fixes and is proactive towards its problems, and it comes up with solutions before the problems actually are there. A community that supports the weakest part, the weakest elements of themselves, of children, disabled, and those who are lack education, and those who are ill. A community that takes care of their youth and makes sure that they educate them properly and practice them. A community that has all the venues that are needed for professional development and educational development and spiritual development. And isn't that? Do you disagree to anything I said? Anything I said right now, you're like, I think that we shouldn't have that. Okay, then why can't we get any of that done? Doesn't Islam have within it all the reasons? It has the masjid, it has the salawat, it has Ramadan, it has zakah in it. It doesn't have all these, it doesn't have Yawm al-Jum'ah, so there's religious leadership that is installed into the system of Islam altogether, so you have leadership that is provided for you, and it's all there. Then why can't we make this work? Because the difference between the theory and then the practice is just the gap has become so big, we don't seem to know how to close it anymore. Maybe learning the story, we can start taking those steps slowly. فَانْطَلَقَا, so they went full throttle into the reality of the world. حَتَّى إِذَا رَكِبَ فِي السَّفِينَةِ خَرَقَهَا. Now, some scholars say that Yusha no longer followed at this point. Meaning, once they actually went on the journey, Yusha stayed behind. And some of them say that no, he went there, he just wasn't quoted in the way that the ayat speak, or the way the narrative of the ayat. So rakiba is the dual form of the past tense verb of getting on something or riding something, which is here regarding the boat or the ship that they got on. So was he not with them? I'm with the opinion that no, he was with them, he's just not the focus of the story. So he's not being quoted in the narration. So the two people who are here of importance is the Abd Salih al-Khadr and Musa alayhi salam. He's just tagging along. He's not a main character of the story, so he's not being quoted in the narrative. However, he was there with them. Wallahu a'lam. But it also could mean that he stayed behind and waited for Musa alayhi salam to come back. فانطلق حتى إذا ركب في السفينة خرقها. And then they went forward until they got upon a boat. Their journey took them to a boat. When they got on the boat, خرقها. الخرق means to violate something. الخرق is a violation. Here is being referred to as, making a hole in the boat, in the side of the boat, or the lower deck of the boat. But it's a violation. Basically, you're violating something that is not yours. You're touching something that doesn't belong to you, and you're harming it in a way that you were not allowed to do. Now Musa alayhi salam is told by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this guy is the man of knowledge and mercy. Right? So he believes, and he's better than you. He knows more than you, has more knowledge than you. So Musa alayhi salam, of course, has expectations. And then he gets on the boat with this guy, and this guy gets out of the sight of the people who allowed him on the boat, and then he he goes down to the lower deck, and then he bashes in the wall of the boat and leaves. So Musa alayhi salam, of course, you're standing there with Musa. I want you to go on this journey with Musa alayhi salam for a moment. I want you to, why I like the idea of Yusha, because he wasn't quoted here, but he's tagged along. Let's tag along as well. Since he's not being quoted anyway, the guy who's tagging along, we can tag along too, we're not going to be quoted. So let's just tag along with Musa. Now imagine yourself, you're walking with Musa, and Musa alayhi salam is the Ulul Azm al-Rusul, one of the strong-willed prophets of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, one of the most famous prophets, one of the best people that ever lived. And he's being told by Allah, this person knows more than you, and he wants you to go to learn from him. So Musa alayhi salam, of course, has a lot of expectations, and he's being have you seen how polite Musa's been? He came up to him, he spoke to him very politely, asked him if he was okay, if I can just follow you around and learn from you. And this it's all, he's doing everything right. And then they get into a boat. They didn't pay money. Like, they just got into a boat. The guy's like, for free. I don't know, take you where you're going. And after they do that, he goes downstairs. He gets out of their eyesight. And then he violates the boat. And Musa alayhi salam was like, what? Ya Shaykh, what's wrong with you? You can almost feel Musa not being able to keep it in. Like, what do you mean? Like, Musa alayhi salam has a very clear set of values and ethics that he does not compromise ever alayhi salam. And he was the type of person who he was very passionate, meaning if he saw something that was clearly wrong, he could not stay quiet for too long. And even though he told him, do not ask me of anything, that was the only condition, just please stay quiet. Now Musa alayhi salam did not know that what he was going to be subjected to were things you could not be quiet about. But isn't that exactly the problem we have today? You think things should be like this and this and this, and then when you go to the reality, you end up finding out that they're doing things that you can't be quiet about. You go find out that the youth are smoking pot and drinking and partying, and you're like, no, you can't do this. But habibi, if you understand the theory and you want to fix the practice, you have to take it easy, but take a deep breath. Take a deep breath. People, no one's perfect. Yes, there are going to be violators in the community. Yes, the Muslim community is not an angelic community. They're not all going to do the things that they're supposed to do properly. We know that. We should know that by now. And you can't ask them to do, and you can't expect it, and you can't assume it. And you're saying one of the things Musa is learning is you're going to be hit with the reality that people sometimes aren't what they seem, and sometimes they don't behave the way you expect them to behave. You have to have the ability to understand that and deal with that. That's one of the lessons we're going to learn here. There's many lessons, but that's one of them. I think it's an important one that's sometimes missed. You're going to see three things, three behaviors that you're like, no, that's just not right. That's not okay. I agree, but still, it happens. And still you have to deal with it, and still you have to accept that that's the reality, and you have to find ways to work with the fact that is how it is. I can't stop coming to the masjid because people just aren't nice in the masjid, or the Muslims don't seem to respect one another. No, you come anyway, and you come especially if they're like that, so that you can change that. Be that change that you want to see. Isn't that what we're taught? Be the change you want to see in the world. You be the better Muslim. You see you don't like how the shoes look, well, pick them up. You don't like how the people are standing in line, then help them up. Do what it is that you think should be done, but don't be the type of person when you see a violation, you'll freak out. Now, again, we're not blaming Musa alayhi salam. He was told beforehand, you're not going to be able to put up with this. He's not at fault. But Musa alayhi salam learned a lot from this. Musa will leave this encounter much more flexible as a person, which a much more broader understanding of the world, and an open mind that allowed him alayhi salam to deal with 600,000 of Bani Israel who didn't agree about anything. He left them for 10 days, and they went back to worshipping a golden calf. Imagine Musa, imagine this, you just opened the sea for them, you just opened the sea and told them La ilaha illallah, and you leave them for 10 days and they're worshipping a golden statue again. Wallahi, when you think about Musa alayhi salam, you always come to that conclusion, Wallah Musa ta'ib. Wallah Musa, he was tired, Wallah, he put in a lot of effort alayhi salam. He had to go through a lot. These people didn't seem to understand what they were doing, and he tried and time again, he would explain things, but I believe that had this not happened, it wouldn't have actually even continued. Musa alayhi salam probably would have just killed everyone. At some point he just lost his temper. But Musa alayhi salam got to go with Al-Khadr, right? And he got to see, and he got to understand. And he came back with a perspective that was very fresh. And alayhi salatu wasalam was capable of dealing with some of the most difficult people on the planet. And maintain their faith and maintain their guidance, alayhi salatu wasalam. And imagine they'll come to the gates of Jerusalem, and he'll tell them, just enter. Just enter the door. We don't want to fight, and we can't fight, and they're too big and we're too weak. Just enter the door. Just push the door in, all right? And you're going to be fine. And they still didn't do it. Ya Shaykh, just please, can you just enter? Well, you're not going to fight. I'm telling you. Musa, I'm telling you, I'm your prophet. You won't do it. And they still didn't do it. They still said no. And understanding the level of difficulty he's dealing with, the closed-mindedness, the lack of commitment, the lack of faith, the lack of belief, the lack of anything. I think that what made the difference for him was this specific story, this unique story in the Quran that tells us this is the transition of Musa. This is the junction of the two seas for Musa alayhi salam. He was going from the theory to practice, and it's always a difficult transition. He needed some guidance for this. He needed someone to kind of help make things clear for him alayhi salatu wasalam. Kharaqaha, this guy violated the ship. Musa alayhi salam flipped. Qala akharaqtaha لِتُغْرِقَ أَهْلَهَا. And he gave him, what, you violated the ship? لِتُغْرِقَ أَهْلَهَا, so you can sink the people who were kind enough to allow us to get on in the first place, the owners of it. لَقَدْ جِئْتَ شَيْئًا إِمْرًا. You have done something horrible. Imra means something just unspeakable. This is the worst. I can't imagine. Musa said, I thought I was told you're a person of knowledge and rahmah. This is horrible what you just done. This is one of the worst things I've seen in a long time. لَقَدْ جِئْتَ شَيْئًا إِمْرًا. And Musa alayhi salam is the type of person who's just open. He'll always speak his mind. So the Abdul Salih, as the patient teacher that he was at that point, قال ألم أقل, did I not say, إنك لن تستطيع معي صبرا, that indeed you would not have the ability to be patient on this journey? Did I not tell you? Did I not say that too? قال لا تؤاخذني بما نسيت. But Musa alayhi salam was also a very pious student. قال لا تؤاخذني, please do not hold this against me. Please don't hold me accountable. Please don't be angry with me. Don't be continuously upset with me. لا تؤاخذني بما نسيت, with what I have forgotten. So I forgot that we're not supposed to say anything. It slipped my mind at that one moment, so the first time it was forgetfulness. Musa alayhi salam forgot, and students will always forget. And that is like the go-to excuse if you ever don't know anything, is that you forgot. But at the same time, it is the truth of the matter that students forget. قال لا تؤاخذني بما نسيت. Don't hold this against me because I forgot. ولا ترهقني من أمري عسرا. And don't make this difficult for me. I mean, don't continuously remind me of it or hold me accountable with it. Usra, and make it difficult for me. Min amri. Don't make this matter difficult for me by continuously reminding me of it and holding this against me. Because I forgot. Please don't hold this against me. Don't be upset with me. Basically saying, I won't. It's a one-time thing. So he accepted. The Abdul Salih said, all right, even though that was the condition, that you would not say anything until we're done, but that's fine. So that's the first story. The first story is violating the belongings of those who helped you out. Now here we're just going to look at it from a very abstract or very simplistic point of view. We're going to look into it in more detail once he starts explaining things. When Abdul Salih starts explaining, that's when I'll go into details with you a bit more and deeply. But right now, let's look at it from an abstract and kind of a distance point of view. What you saw was someone who violated the possession of someone else who helped him out. Has that ever happened to you before? Have you ever put your hand out to help someone, and then the person that you helped out ended up harming you? Has it ever happened in the world, the history of the world? Yes. This happens quite often. Where someone that you helped out ends up stabbing you in the back and hurting you a lot. Now what are you going to do? Let me tell you something very, very common that happens when people don't have the proper understanding of how you're supposed to practice Islam. One of the things that happen quite commonly is that you say, you know what, I've always been a good person, but I'm done now. I will not be merciful with people anymore, because every time I'm merciful with someone, they come back and they stab me in the back. فخلاص, I'm done. From now on, it's by the book, and I don't care what, if you have money, you don't have money. I don't care. It's not my problem anymore. I've done my part. Right? You hear that a lot. That's very very common thing, especially in the world of business, where they say, well, I always work with dhamir, I work with my conscience, I'm kind, I'm patient, and then I do something good, and this person who I did good to for years comes and stabs me in the back. I'm done. I am done. Yes, you are done if you were doing it for the sake of the people at the beginning. You see, if you're doing it for people and people change, then you should change as well. But if you're doing it for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah never changes, so why would you? If you're doing it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah never changes. Why are you going to change? Why would you change something you're doing for the sake of Allah? Unless you're not doing it for the sake of Allah, you were doing it for the sake of people saying something about you, and now they've already hurt you too much, so I don't care anymore. If you're doing it for the sake of people, then you'll change based on what people do. If people are nice, you're nice. If people are bad, then you're not. If people don't treat you properly, then you stop being the merciful, kind, just person that you are. However, if you're dealing with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, meaning if the one that you are dealing with, if the one that you are doing things for is Him Jalla Jalaluhu, then you'll never change. Because does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala change? Does He go from being generous to being non-generous, or to being merciful to being non-merciful? No. He will continuously be generous and merciful and loving. So why are you changing? There's a known proverb that says that those who love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, one of them, two people who are very pious came to one another, one of them with money, and one of them wealthy, the other one very poor. So the wealthy person took out from his pocket a coin, some money, and he said to the other person, "Khudh la lak," take it, it's not for you though. Meaning, I'm not giving it to you, I'm giving it to Allah. So he told him, "Hat la mink," give it to me, but I'm not taking it from you, I'm taking it from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The concept being very, very simple. When you're giving charity, you're not giving fulan and fulan and fulan. You're giving Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Man dha alladhi yuqridu Allah. He chose to use the wording like that in the Quran. Who will lend Allah money? As if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala needs money or uses money or has any interest in money. But that's how you're supposed to think about it. I'm giving Allah, I'm not giving you. You're good, you're bad, you're kind, you're not kind, it doesn't make a difference to me. Now, of course, there's a small exception to the rule here that I've talked about, because I got this question too many times. What happens if the person is an addict who's going to use it for a shell? That's a different story. If you know for sure that this person is going to use it for a shell, that's a different story. Yeah, but that's very rare. Meaning, that's for you to know that for sure that this person is going to use this money to harm himself or harm someone else, then that's a different story. But still, you should give. Maybe not money, but you should give. Giving is not limited to cash. Giving can be in different forms. Sometimes this person who you're talking about, who is an addict or is harmful, does he need money? No, he needs someone to give him something, but it's not money. He needs attention, he needs support, he needs help. Give him help. Not in the form of money, if that's not what's going to help him, right? But here the concept is, Musa alayhi salam, of course, wants to maintain the akhlaq of the society. Musa does not accept that idea, right? Because a theory, we don't have that in theory. In theory, when I'm good to you, you're going to be good to me. If you've been good to me, then I'm going to be good back to you. That's how it works. It's loyalty. It's theory. It's beautiful. But in practice, that's not how it happens. You raise your kid for 35 years, and then one day they say something that breaks your heart forever, right? You probably have done something like that to a parent at one point too. You work with someone, you support a sibling, you support a friend, and then one day, they do something that is unimaginable to you. Because in your mind, you're like, I've been supporting you and trying to protect you and stand by you for all these years, and this is what I get back, right? So what do we do with that? Do we continue to maintain our ethical code, or do we give in and change our ways? So Musa alayhi salam objected. He reminded him of the condition, and then he apologized. And he told him, I forgot. So we continue, inshallah, to read the ayat after it. فانطلقا حتى إذا لقيا غلاما فقتله
فانطلقا حتى إذا لقيا غلاما فقتله
قال أقتلت نفسا زكية بغير نفس
قال أقتلت نفسا زكية بغير نفس
لقد جئت شيئا نكرا
لقد جئت شيئا نكرا
قال ألم أقل لك إنك لن تستطيع معي صبرا
قال ألم أقل لك إنك لن تستطيع معي صبرا
قال إن سألتك عن شيء بعدها فلا تصاحبني.
قال إن سألتك عن شيء بعدها فلا تصاحبني
قد بلغت من لدني عذرا.
قد بلغت من لدني عذرا.
All right. فانطلقا. So they went to the reality again, and they went full throttle once more to embark on a new journey. حتى إذا لقيا غلاما, until they came up to a young boy. فقتله, and he killed him. And of course Musa alayhi salam sees this. And again, we're walking around with Musa, and we're walking around this knowledgeable, apparently merciful person, and then he comes up to a child and he murders this child. And Musa again loses his mind. قال أقتلت نفسا زكية, have you killed a pure soul? Zakiya means pure. Why is it pure? Because he's a ghulam, he's a young boy who has not reached religious accountability. Meaning he's not held accountable for any dhunub, he hasn't done ma'asi yet. So it's a clean slate for this kid. He hasn't done بغير نفس, with no بغير نفس, meaning with no other soul to make up for it. Meaning he didn't kill someone. يعني القتل نفس بنفس, meaning if you kill someone, you premeditate a murder, then it's capital punishment. For this kid, you're killing first of all a pure soul that didn't do anything wrong, and it's not like this kid killed another kid or killed someone else. You're just بغير نفس, so he's using all his logic. He's using all his theory. Musa alayhi salam. Look, there's two things. It's a zakiyah, it's a nafs zakiyah. This kid is not old enough, and he didn't kill anyone. There's no reason under the sun that allows you to kill this kid. لَقَدْ جِئْتَ شَيْئًا نُكْرًا, you have done the worst thing possible. Nukra means the most horrible nukr, something munkar, something that you should be punished for. Like he's almost insinuating, he's almost suggesting that you should be punished for this. Like, I know that you're knowledgeable and merciful and all that, but this is nukra. This is just, I can't put up with this. قال ألم أقل لك, did I not tell you specifically, إنك لن تستطيع معي صبرا, that you will not be able to have patience with me. So Musa calms down again. He goes back to the neutral status. Like, yes, of course, I shouldn't have said. But yeah, Shaykh, you just killed a kid. What are you talking about? But you remember, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who told him here. There's a lot to learn in these stories, because we're gonna ask a few questions at the end. Is it okay if you have knowledge you can go around killing kids, and that's gonna be so we're gonna have some questions to ask at the end. Are you allowed to go harm people and violate people's possession, and that's gonna be because you have more knowledge, or no, obviously not. But how are we gonna come to these conclusions? We have to go through the story a bit properly. قال إن سألتك عن شيء بعدها فلا تصاحبني. Okay, if I ask you again about anything after this, then do not accept my companionship. فلا تصاحبني, then get rid of me. قد بلغت من لدني عذرا, you have reached your limit with my excuses. عذرا مني عذر for my excuses. You've reached your limit. خلاص, بلغت, you've reached your limit. I don't think you should be stuck with me with more excuses. Yes, you told me not to ask anything, and I've done it twice in a row. But yeah, Shaykh, you've violated a ship, and then you've killed a kid, and I don't know what you're going to do next. I'm scared even to think what you're going to do next. But yeah, I don't know what to tell you. Yeah, I won't say anything again. I promise I won't say anything again. So this Abdul Salih accepts. Yes, good.
What about lak at the second time?
So lak makes it a bit more personal. The first time is like, I made a rule. Remember the rule? So he's like, yes, I forgot the rule. And then the second time was like, didn't I tell you? Did I not tell you specifically? That's usually when you're teaching, you'll say, guys, I said no talking, right? And then the next time this kid talks, like, hey, did I not tell you a second ago to stop talking? So that's what makes it a bit more personal. So the second time is he's personalizing it a bit. Like, I told you, you're not going to be able to do this, right? To prove me wrong. Like, as if he's telling him, prove me wrong and show me that you can be patient with this. But he can't. Obviously he can't. Should he have been okay with doing that, Musa alayhi salam? What are your thoughts? Should have Musa been okay and should have Musa not said anything? Of course he should have. Of course, normal. He was told by his teacher, you're not going to be able to do this. It's fine. You don't encompass the knowledge. You're not going to be able to do this. It's no problem. Right? So it was normal. Musa alayhi salam's reaction to this is totally it's natural. It's normal. It's the right way to do it. You have to react to things. Actually, it teaches us something important about seeking knowledge. No way and nowhere in seeking knowledge, are you required to turn off your brain and just run along with whatever your teacher tells you that makes no sense at all? Even if that teacher is someone Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself gave you and told you this is the person to go learn from. Isn't this what happened here? He was told by Allah, go learn from him. Go learn from him. I'm telling you, I want you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling Musa, go learn from him. And yet Musa alayhi salam does not stop once. He does not let something go. He objects every time. Of course he has to. You have to. As a seeker of knowledge in this world, you object to everything that makes no sense to you. No matter who says it. And you should do it, and your kids should do it. Even though you hate when your kids do it. Specifically when you give them a an unrational ruling, right? When you tell them, okay, no this in the house. Why? Why no eating after 8 o'clock in the house? I'm hungry. Khalas, no eating in the house after 8 o'clock. Why? Right? Why? What's wrong? Because I said so. Wallahi. MashaAllah. I didn't know you were a ultimate authority in the world. I thought you were SubhanAllah. But isn't that the reality of how we deal with things? We're actually teaching our kids something that is very negative. Teach your kids to question everything. Teach them to question everything and be proud of them if they question everything. Be proud of them if they question you. Be proud of them and answer them and tell them why and explain to them. If you can't convince them, then maybe your rule is stupid and needs to change. Yeah? Maybe if your rule, you can't convince a kid about your rule, maybe your rule needs to change. Yeah? And take the time. Wallah, kids will listen. The best thing about kids is that if you can convince them of something, they'll commit to it more than you. If you can convince a kid of something, they'll commit to it more than yourself. And that's the awesome thing about kids. And if they don't commit to it, they'll feel bad about it by themselves. They won't even wait for you to say anything because they know they should have done it, and they'll ask for your help. But if they don't see the light in what you're talking about, of course they're not going to like it. Of course, if they feel it's just a matter of forcing them to do something, they don't want it. None of us like that. None of us accept that. None of us do. And Musa alayhi salam is no exception to the rule. Even though Musa is a prophet sent by Allah himself to learn from someone, and he objected all 3 times. Every time. What? You violate? No. You killed? No. And now the 3rd time is going to be something good. And the 3rd time is different. Like the first time was a violation of the possessions of someone who was good to you, and that hurts. The second one is, of course, it's the worst type of evil that exists in the world, which is the harm that comes to a child. You can't understand that. I can't understand that. No one can. Can you understand harm coming to children? No, it's hard. When you see it, it's the only thing that makes you, the only thing that keeps me up at night, wallah. The only thing that kills me is when you see a child suffering. Well, it's hard to understand the suffering of children. It's hard. Well, because they're children. Because they didn't do anything yet. They're not ready. That's what Musa told him. أَقَتَلْتَ نَفْسًا زَكِيَّةً بِغَيْرِ نَفْسٍ. You killed a nafs that is not even religiously accountable. And there was no murder before it. He didn't kill anyone. What are you doing? Well, I ask the same question every day. Don't you think you watch the TV and doesn't the same question that Musa asked come to your mind? And you look at the person, قَتَلْتَ نَفْسًا زَكِيَّةً بِغَيْرِ نَفْسٍ لَقَدْ جِئْتَ شَيْئًا نُكْرًا. Unless you're Khadr, then what did you do? Unless you're the Khadr himself, and then what did you do? How could you do this? How could this happen? Of course, it's the worst type of evil that could be imagined. When a child is violated and killed or loses his life, the pain that enters the hearts of the parents and the people around them is unimaginable. No parent should walk in the funeral of his own child, right? Like it's something that the nature of life, the fitrah doesn't see to be normal for a parent to walk in the funeral of his own child. But subhanAllah, it happens all the time, and it's a part of life. It's a part of life. The theory doesn't support it, but the practice does. The theory is not there. The theory doesn't say that this should happen, but practically it does. It does happen. How are we supposed to deal with this? How are we supposed to understand it? And this is what the whole point of this story of Surat AlKahf here is. We're going to learn how to understand these things and see them. Khadr, in my understanding, I think you're starting to feel this, he's not really a human being, just like you and me. He's not a regular person. He's not a person. Right? He's one of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's creation. He's abd, a servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that does the work of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But he's not a person that is Yawm al-Qiyamah going to have a book and he's going to be held accountable for stuff. No, he's not that. He's not that. He's not that.
Is possible still around?
No. All the myths, all these are myths we made up around this mystic figure. There's even more. Like there's more beliefs surrounding Al-Khadr, that he comes every night to a certain place every year to us, and then you can meet him in time that he's still in you. None of that. None of that exists, and none of that is proper. Wallahu a'lam. If you understand the story properly, and you'll see at the end of the story, it'll make sense to you. He's not actually a religiously accountable human being. He's not a person. He's a jundi min junudillah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He's one of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's creations, that like one of the malaika. Just like there's a malaika, there's someone like this. There's someone like this that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted Musa alayhi salam to learn from. To learn from him the perspective of life, of how the theory when it comes to practice, it's never smooth, it's never perfect. There's always a lot of bumps and ups and downs, there's always a lot of mistakes, and there's always a lot of suffering and pain. There's going to be pain. Yani this story, the second story is, the first one is the violation of ethics. The second one is pain. And the first one is just pure agony and suffering that is hard for us to even comprehend and understand. So that's the second one. Let's see the third one, and inshallah we have time to kind of bring the whole thing together at the end. فانطلقا حتى إذا أتيا So we have three mudud here. We have three med. Hatta for a count. Ida for a count. Ataya also for a count. Right? So I stopped at ataya so that we wouldn't have 12 counts in a row and you would lose your breath. But in generally when you read it, you have 12 counts here. We'll do it again. Hatta and try to get all three. Hatta إذا أتيا أهل قرية استطعما أهلها
حتى إذا أتيا أهل قرية استطعما أهلها.
So four mudud, right? In a couple of words. So four counts, 16 counts of med just in this small, couple of words that we read. فأبوا أن يضيفوهما فوجدا فيها جدارا يريد أن ينقض فأقامه
فوجدا فيها جدارا يريد أن ينقض فأقامه
قال لو شئت لاتخذت عليه أجرا
قال لو شئت لاتخذت عليه أجرا
فانطلق. Oh, do you want to make, is it time for that? ما شاء الله أذن المسجد كله إلا الأذان. So the final, فانطلق, so they embarked on the journey again and they went forward again. This time they حتى إذا أتيا أهل قرية, until they came up to the people of a certain village. قرية, village or a town or city or whatever, meaning a populated area. استطعما أهلها, and by then they were hungry. So Musa alayhi salam, the customary way back then, there was a customary law that was understood by all, that if you come as a abir sabil, meaning you visit a place, a country, a town, a village, and you're hungry, and you ask to be supported by food, that people will feed you. That is your right. And that was, the Arabs stuck to that, even before Islam. So if you came and you were asking for food, and no one knew you, then they would feed you for 3 days. The first night they would feed you extravagantly, and the next 2 nights they would feed you normally, before they even asked you what you wanted, or why you were here, or who you were looking for. So they came to a village and they asked for food, as normally. It's not something weird. Like they didn't do something that they didn't do, you wouldn't do normally. Just it's normal. We're going to get food here, obviously, because we're hungry and we're in a different place that people don't know us. So they asked the people for food. فأبوا أن يضيفوهما, and the people of this town, almost all of them, said no, and they refused to feed them, and they closed their doors. So we came to a very cheap, if I may, town. The people socially were challenged. They didn't have a strong society and community. They didn't have the proper values and ethics. Apparently this was a group, the population, that had deteriorated. Their values and ethics and practices have deteriorated in the last number of generations, to the point where they won't offer those who are hungry just something to eat. And that is, of course, the worst you can arrive to at the time. فَأَبَوْا أَن يُضَيِّفُوهُمَا. Of course, that was very upsetting to Musa alayhi salam, and upsetting to Abdul Salih. فَوَجَدَ فِيهَا جِدَارًا, and then they found a wall. يُرِيدُ أَن يَنْقَضَّ. The wall wants to fall down. Now, no wall wants to do anything. This is just a figure of speech in the Arabic language. So the wall didn't want to fall down, but what it's saying is the wall is almost falling down. Like it's broken. It's not really. Wait, inshallah for that. Okay. So So they came to these people and they asked them to be fed as normally as any passing by, any bypasser would, or pass by would come and ask for food. It wasn't something that needed a special treatment. It was something that happened very naturally, normally, and it almost came second nature to everyone who was traveling in the land. And they asked for food as they normally would, and the people said no. To their surprise, they actually said no, and they asked a number of places, and everyone said no. And it seemed to me that this society and this group of people, this population, had deteriorated ethically and morally to a point where they didn't do the basics that were required of them in treating others. So they found a wall that was falling down. There was not much of it was left, and it was almost completely on the ground. يريد أن ينقض, and the Quran uses it in that term, saying the wall that wants to fall down. So it's just a figure of speech. It doesn't want to fall down, but it's going to. فأقامه. So this Abdul Saleh put up his sleeves and started working and put up the wall again, right? And of course Musa's standing, what are you doing? Like this is the worst group of people I've ever encountered in my life. Like they're not worth the air they're breathing. Why are you doing them a favor here? Like why do you even know who this is for? Like what are you, do you know who this wall is for? Why are you fixing a wall for them? Right? قال لو شئت, if you wanted, لاتخذت عليه أجرا. You could have done this at least for أجر. لاتخذت عليه أجرا. You could have taken for doing this أجرا, some reward, like money. And then we could have eaten, like we're both starving, like at least ask for money if you're going to do this, like right? Again, Musa alayhi salam is in awe. Why would you show this level of, this is a level of service to people who lack the basic morals and ethics in the world, right? And that's the third thing that Musa alayhi salam couldn't put up with. The first thing was violating someone who was kind to you. Second one was pure evil, like the symbol of just pure evil, killing a child. And then the third one is, why would you do a service towards people who refuse to do the basic minimum of what is morally and ethically required at a time? قال لو شئت لاتخذت عليه أجرا. You could have at least asked for food. I'm not saying not to do it. So Musa didn't say, why did you do this? The first two times he said, why did you do it? The first time when he was told, you made a mistake, he said, I forgot. The second time he didn't say I forgot, because he didn't forget the second time. The second time after the murder, he didn't forget at all. He said it even though he knew he shouldn't say something, but he said, all right, fine. If I make a mistake again, don't let me go. Leave me, and you don't have to have my companionship. But he didn't forget. The third time, it was just a matter, he didn't say, why did you do it? It's like, why is there no logic in anything that you do? why is it that nothing you do makes sense at all? Like, these people don't deserve to be serviced. And if you're going to service them, at least benefit so we can eat, because they just broke the law of the land. They have to feed us. They have to give us something to drink or something to eat. So Musa is just a level of frustration. He's very, very frustrated with what he's seeing, even though he's told that this person is full of knowledge. When this man, you see, we know this story, that's why to you this is like, yeah, whatever, like I know what's coming next, but if you didn't know this story, and this was explained to you the way I'm trying to explain it to you, you would find that the answers of this man open up your mind to possibilities and to options that exist in this world that will make you deal with things differently. It's all about perspective, and it's all about what can happen, and it's all about the fact that there's ghaib that you don't understand all the time, and not everything that happens around you is going to make perfect sense. All that needs to make perfect sense are the values you believe in and the actions that you're going to do. But what happens around you, many of it is not going to make perfect sense, and it doesn't have to, and it never will. It doesn't have to, and it never will. And if you need it to, then you're going to be very, very sad at the end, and you're going to lose a lot, and you're not going to be able to continue. If you require everything to make sense around you that's happening in this world, if you're going to try to make sense of everything that goes on, you're going to lose, wallahi, and you lose badly at the end of this, because it just doesn't. The ethics you believe in, the values, the morals, the principles, the foundational concepts that you take, they make sense to you, and then your practice does. But what goes around, what happens, how are you supposed to understand the death of a child? If it never happened to you before, then inshallah it never will. Alhamdulillah, may Allah inshallah protect all your children. Say ameen. It's the biggest musibah that could happen. But how do you understand it? How do you deal with it? How do you come to terms with that? How do you rationalize it and understand the logic behind it? It's very hard. Say, Ya Rabb, why him? What did he do? If I'm so bad, if this is punishment for me, take me. Let him live. Isn't that what a father and a mother says? That's what they say. And that's exactly what comes to their mind. Take me in any way you want. Just leave him. Let him live. I know kids are listening. That's how your dad feels. That's how your dad literally feels about you. He literally feels like that. He won't tell you that. He'll never will, because he's a Middle Eastern dad. Middle Eastern dad will never say that. But that's how he feels deep inside. He'd rather you live than him. But how do you make sense of good people who do good things and bad things come their way, right? The people of the ship, good people, and then their ship sinks. How do you make sense of this? Yes.
When you see that child, suddenly the entire world wakes up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. How do you make sense of people who are as garbagey as these people in the story? The people who refuse to feed someone who is starving on the way. How do you explain good things happening to them? How do you explain something that is falling being built for them? Isn't this what happened? How do you explain this stuff? How do you see it? And how do you see the zalim become stronger? How do you see people being innocently murdered? How do you see the mazloom, the good person, the kind-hearted falling more and more and failing more and more and being in difficult situations? How do you understand it? You see, that is the knowledge of the practice. That is the practical knowledge that Musa alayhi salam lacked at that point. He had all the theory, but he didn't have this. And if you have this, then your understanding of things will be very, very different, and you have an ability to do intilaq. You have the ability to take full throttle into life, because you understand that, it's not always the way I want it, it's not always how I think it's going to be. So this is what he said, oh shit, if you wanted, you would have just taken ajr, you would have taken some money and we could have eaten. Yani, ya Abul Ilm, you Mr. Knowledge and Mercy man, yani, who seems to do nothing that I understand in this world. Can you please tell me why you didn't ask for some money so we could eat? So of course he answers him. Do we have time to read like one more ayah? Okay. قال هذا فراق بيني وبينك سأنبئك بتأويل ما لم تستطع عليه صبرا. So he tells him, okay, this is the final encounter of you and I. Firaq, we're going to part ways. This is where we part ways. Khalas, this is where we part ways. Why? Because 3 times a strike. If you're playing baseball, it's you're stroking. You're out. Khalas, 3 strikes and you're out. But khalas, you've made your first time you forgot, second time you didn't forget, but you asked for one more chance, and here's your one more chance, and you still can't. Like I did something good. You couldn't just be quiet about the good thing. You still had to ask me. فخلاص فراق بيني وبينك, we're done. سأنبئك, I am going to explain to you بتأويل. And this is an important word. With whatever time we have left, I think I have to take a moment to explain. Ta'wil comes from the concept of awala, which is going back on your traces to revisit something. So ta'wil, and it's a way that we deal with the Quran. One of the ways of tafseer is doing ta'wil, which is re-understanding things, meaning looking at things from a different perspective. And it's usually used for looking at things figuratively. And it usually means, ta'wil usually means that what is apparent to you is not the actual story. That what is staring you in the face is not the full story. There's something else that you're missing. There's a hidden part of this. There's another dimension of it that you don't seem to see, and that's what ta'wil means, and that's what ta'wil is used for within the Quran. That's why when we talk about the certain attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when we talk of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's hand, al-yad, or we talk about al-wajh, or we talk about al-qadam or al-saq, or we talk about something that is specific to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that the literal meaning does not apply. It cannot apply. You cannot say that he has a face and then imagine a face that is similar to any face that you've ever seen, or to say that he has a hand and then imagine 5 digits. You can't do that. If you do that, you're actually committing a form of shirk or a form of kufr. You cannot do that at all, because anything that you imagine Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is nothing even similar. So how do you understand yad? Some people say, okay, it is what it is, we don't think about it, we don't talk about it, that's what it is. And then other people, well, that doesn't work anymore, because you're going to end up a million questions from people from different faiths, and they say, well, what does it mean? When you know what it means, so you have to explain, so you do something called ta'wil, which is basically giving it a figurative meaning that allows you to be able to talk about it. And that is, and both things of Muslimin have done for many years. So in Abiyuka bi ta'wil, I'm going to explain to you the figurative understanding, ma lam tastati' alayhi sabra, of what it is that you didn't have the patience to deal with. Meaning, yes, you saw a violation of the property of good people. Yes, you saw the murder of a child, a merciless murder of a child. Yes, you saw me doing a favor to people who did not deserve it whatsoever. That is what it looks like, literally. Staring in the face, this makes no sense. Good people are being harmed because of you. A child was murdered because of you. Bad people were rewarded because of you. That's how it looks on the outside. Isn't that the literal? That's the literal. But that's not the actual meaning. Ta'wil, the figurative understanding, is very different. Let me explain to you. I'm going to give you the information now. The second junction, the junction of the two oceans. Oh, here's the second ocean, ya Musa. Let me explain to you the second part. Let me give you the ta'wil, so you can understand how things are going to look. Certain things need depth, and they need profoundness, and they need your ability to look and read between the lines and see beyond what actually happened. And again, before we go through the ayat, and this man, Abd al-Salih, explains to Musa alayhi salam very clearly what the idea is, and we will see a lot of light in what's going to be explained. You ask yourself, every time you see an injustice in the world, and you see those who are unjust become more powerful, and you see more innocent people lose their lives, and you see good people losing what they have, when you see something happening to you that makes no sense to you, when something happens to you and you put so much effort in trying to achieve something, and you were very pious about it, and you were very sincere about it, and you put your effort, and then something very bad came to you as you were doing all of it, and you didn't get what you wanted, how do you understand it? How do you make sense of it? How are you supposed to deal with it? Because the way it looks, could be very confusing. It could fool you. If you misunderstand what's happening, you could be fooled easily, and then you have no idea how to deal with this information. However, if you have the proper knowledge, which is what this story is teaching us, the theory is one thing, and then the practice of life is different. Being able to deal with life is a different thing. Having that information will make a difference for you. So I think we have time for one more. Okay, one more ayah, inshallah, before we go. So he begins to explain to Musa alayhi salam what actually happened. السفينة فكانت لمساكين يعملون في البحر
أما السفينة فكانت لمساكين يعملون في البحر
فأردت أن أعيبها وكان وراءهم ملك يأخذ كل سفينة غصبا أما السفينة, as far as the ship goes, well, Musa, the ship was owned by masakin, by a bunch of very, very poor people who didn't have anything else but the ship that they worked on. That's all they owned from this world. Did Musa alayhi salam know that? No. Did he know that they were masakin? No, he did not know. Did he know that they owned nothing else? No, he had no idea about that. يَعْمَلُونَ فِي الْبَحْرِ, the only thing that they made money off was working in the sea. Musa alayhi salam did not know that either. فَأَرَدْتُ أَنْ أَعِيبَهَا, what I wanted to do was to put a flaw in it. وَكَانَ وَرَاءَهُمْ, and the reason I wanted to do that was that there was behind them, or is waiting for them, or someone after them. وَرَاءَهُمْ was after them, someone's going after them. مَلِكٌ, a king, يَأْخُذُ كُلَّ سَفِينَةٍ غَصْبًا, there was a king that would take every flawless ship in coercion. And they would force people, and they'd take the ships against their will. Did Musa alayhi salam know that? No. Now that he knows that, does it make sense? Does the action of this man, after he has that knowledge, does it make sense now? It makes sense. Now he's like, oh, so you flawed it, you violated it, so that by the time it arrived at its destination, there was water in it, and they would have to fix it. The king would come and take a look at it. He would find there's a big hole in the middle of it. This is not a good ship, and he would leave it alone, and these people would be able to hold on to their ship, and they wouldn't lose their ship. Now things make perfect sense. Now, are you required to know this every time something happens? So every time that something bad happens to them, is that exactly what's going to be the picture? Is it going to be exactly like this? No, but there's going to be a story that you don't know. There's going to be a background to this that you don't have the information of. You don't know the people, you don't know their history, you don't know what they have, you don't know what's waiting for them, you don't know anything. You just saw the harm that happened to them. You don't know the plan that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has for them. You don't know it. And since you don't know it, you act the way Musa acted. You act the way Musa acted, meaning you'll object to the shar that you see happening. However, you accept that this is the qadr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that there's wisdom in it somewhere down the road, even though you can't see it. Understanding the idea here, that even if you cannot see the wisdom in it, you know that the wisdom is there. It's there. Now, does that mean people are allowed to walk around and violate other people's possessions? Obviously not. That's why Al-Khadr al-Abd al-Salih here is not actually a person. He's not someone who's is going to be held accountable Yawm al-Qiyamah. He's just one of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's creations, just like the malaika who does his jobs, Jalla Jalaluhu. The concept being, that what is apparent to you sometimes will fool you. Yes, you have to deal with it normally. If you catch someone violating someone else's possession, he has to go to jail. He has to pay for what he violated. But when you see someone being harmed when they're good people, you know that there's more to it than what you just saw. And if you're a good person and you're harmed, you know that there's more to this than what just happened right now. That there's something beyond what just went down. Inshallah, we'll take more time, bidnillah ta'ala, next. I most likely will be here.